really excited. I guess I'm beyond excited. I'm really thrilled I get this opportunity to get my hands on Tom Emrich, who really is a pioneer for lots of reasons. And we'd like to start with just some context, which is, Tom, you started off as a journalist, and 11 years ago, you got bit by the bug of AR. And it was really, what was AR 11 years ago? Tell us a little bit about that journey so that will help us understand exactly your perspective on this evolving technology.
Sure. And it's so good to be here with you too, Adora. So I'm really looking forward to the next 30 minutes. We're going to have fun. So hang on tight, audience. 11 years, actually, I did start in augmented reality 11 years ago, but it wasn't as a journalist quite yet. It was as a product manager working in media. And so I was hired as a product manager. Get this, my title was product manager of e-reader and tablets. This is how I'm dating myself. And my charge was to work within the new digital team to figure out how to use digital technologies to essentially save paper, right? Save the paper industry, save the news and magazine industry. And at that time, augmented reality was one of the newer technologies. It came with the ultimate amount of friction. I mean, we were asking people to hold a magazine cover up to their desktop, not even their laptop, their desktop webcam. So it definitely has come a far way from 11 years. But what I loved about augmented reality back then stays the same as my love for it today, which is really this bridging of the gap between physical and digital, the ability to marry and merge and blur the digital and the physical to create extraordinary experiences. So that's really where my augmented reality beginnings, I guess, came about back in Canada, where I'm from.
Canada. That's a little thin, but just very quickly. So product managing, you started a company, you sold a company, a content around blogs and wearables. You joined with our dear friend Ori Inbar at Superventures and Augmented World Expo, which is a leading conference globally all over the world, introducing these new technologies to all sorts of audiences. You've written, you've been on television. I mean, it's in your blood, right?
It's in my blood. Yeah,
you're
blood. Absolutely right. I guess my friends would describe this as, not having really good boundaries between my professional and personal life. I'm all in when it comes to augmented reality and wearable technology. I have, ever since that first beginning 11 years back. But as you mentioned, I really have tried to add value to the world and to the space. And so I've found myself in different positions depending on the state of the technology and the needs of that technology at that time. So when there was a need to bring people together, and there still is obviously, but when there was a dire need to get people together to really figure out what is a smartwatch? What is a pair of smart glasses? What do we mean by biometric wearables? What do we mean by augmented reality? I created a community called We Are Wearables and subsequently worked with, as you mentioned, Ori Inbar, a really great pioneer in the AR space through AWE. When there was a time to put money behind my passion, that was when Superventures came about, thanks to Ori and working as a partner in that space to inject capital.
As a venture capitalist.
And as a venture capitalist. And so, yeah, I guess I've worn a lot of different hats, and it's really allowed for me to see the space from different angles. And one thing that I really loved is just getting to know the community that really is behind this technology, the startups, the founders, the developers, and the
corporates, which is why I really wanted the audience to understand that you've literally sat at every seat at the table when it comes to this evolving technology, which brings me to the next question is probably going to be the hardest one in our whole conversation. Drum roll here. What is AR, Tom? If you ask 100 people, I think you could get 100 different. So just as we continue with this conversation and drill down specifically to retail, let's understand what you mean based on all of your experiences of what augmented reality means today.
Right. Augmented reality today is the ability to add digital information and objects into the physical environment by looking through a pane of glass. That's essentially what it is, or using a camera, I should say, more importantly. And right now, the consumers are engaging with augmented reality through a smartphone. And so that's the current pane of glass that they're holding in their hand, the camera that they're holding in their hand. And so one of the things that I love about
Those are for
describing,
the consumers though, but for the
yeah,
enterprise, some of them are actually using like headsets, like
that's
HoloLens
true.
or
That is
HoloLens
true.
rather.
That is true.
Sometimes Magic Leap, sometimes, other headsets that have been devised. I mean, we're going to see Nreal and some others coming down the pike.
That's true.
So it's
That's
both
true. So,
consumer and enterprise.
but in both cases, you're looking through a display, and in both cases, these devices have sensors, like a camera, that allow for augmented reality to exist in the world in front of you. And so the similarities are there in terms of the ingredients. But you are absolutely right. I mean, the consumer space is very much, from an AR perspective, dominated by smartphone AR. And there's tons of opportunities that we're going to talk about within the smartphone AR space that can be taken advantage of. The enterprise, I would say, is starting to roll out pilots and small batch deployments with the use of augmented reality head-borne devices, and it really depends on the sector that we're talking about. I mean,
Absolutely.
the use of monocular heads-up displays is quite rampant with warehouse, like picking, for example. Aerospace, military, even automotive within manufacturing have also started to leverage these types of devices, either on the design side or on facilitating, logistics, supply chain. So
we're talking about today in 2020 that there are broad applications, even though they're nascent. They're very young. I often liken it to a human being, a lifespan. If you assume a
right.
lifespan of 75 years, we're probably about 2 right now, maybe 2 years old, relative to how and where the technology will develop. And
Yeah.
obviously, you're at a place right now. You want to tell us what you're up to right now, specifically?
Yeah.
Your day job?
Right. So, well, last year, my day job, I joined 8th Wall, which is an amazing company that shares a mutual mission of mine, which is to make reality content for everyone. And we're doing this by equipping developers and organizations with tools to create augmented reality and virtual reality for the web, or what's known as WebAR and WebVR. And so we have our own AR engine, which allows for developers to create world tracking. So putting 3D content in the space in front of you, image target, which means propagating AR off of a magazine cover or packaging, for example, as well as face effect augmented reality in the web. So face filters, for example. And all this is without any app required, which is really vibing well with organizations because it provides them with a frictionless experience. And on top of it, 8th Wall has our own proprietary AR technology, which means that we have the widest reach. So we have scale, nearly 3 billion smartphones that you can tap into today. That's very important for organizations. We have a frictionless experience, no app required. And what's really great about web, and I think one of the biggest trends, and I don't mean to sound biased because I work at a web AR development company, but one of the biggest trends that's happening in the AR space is the embracing of web as a platform for reality content. And why is this really important outside of frictionless and scale? It's because it gives you, the developer or the organization, complete control over your content. This is huge. Control over when you want to launch it, when you want to update it, the types of content and content guidelines you want to adhere to maximize the value of the content for your audience. You can also control where this lives. Do you want it to live in a dedicated destination? Do you want to embed it into your website in order to increase traffic and dwell time and engagement on your .com? And have your AR live alongside video, for example. And you can even integrate third-party, external libraries. And that's one thing the web is really well known for. And with 8th Wall, we have a modular platform. So if you want to create an AR retail experience, use your own payment system, your own CRM, your own preferred analytics, this is possible. So using the web, having the web in play with also the app ecosystem and the social ecosystem, all having the ability to power and distribute augmented reality content for organizations, it means it's go time for smartphone AR in particular.
It's huge, but it's also easier for the consumer because now I don't have to download an app. I mean, you've taken one barrier away from me, which is having to download something. I actually think we might have a video.
We do have a video
that could show the folks a little bit about the work that you're doing. And don't worry, this is an advertisement, but I think it serves a purpose, which is so that people can see exactly what you were talking about. And then we'll talk about other enabling technology as well as other platforms, specifically around how they're being used in retail. So if we could
For
see
sure.
that eighth wall video, that would be amazing. But it's always good to see visuals because I think it's hard for people to imagine
Yeah.
exactly what AR is. And when you say, I often say to people, well, you're already using AR. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like,
Hmm.
do you have Instagram on your phone? Do you have Snap on
Right.
your phone? It's that whole notion
Yeah.
of simple version is like the overlay, right? And I
That's
think
right.
that's the most simplistic version that I think most people can relate to. If
Yeah, but actually, Adora, I really love your point about wanting to show, like the purpose of that video really was to show some of the experiences in action, because augmented reality and virtual reality, like you mentioned, like how do you describe AR? And it's like, I feel like no matter that what variations of definition I want to give, it's never good enough, because it is one of those things that you have to see. And it's because, I really do believe that AR is an experience medium. So you really have to experience it in order to get it. But if
no,
we're not
it's
able to play the
totally.
video, it's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but it's one of those things where you have to show people. I mean, you're a mentor at our lab, and our mission in life. I mean, we're a consortium of NYU, Columbia University, CUNY, and the New School, and we were set up by the city to
Hmm.
focus on these spatial technologies and future user interfaces and 3D tech, right? And so I spend my day working with Fortune 500 companies, and we have education and training programs that my colleagues run, and we have entrepreneurship programs. And we have a facility that's extraordinary in the Brooklyn Navy Yard, and hopefully one day we're going to get back to it. And we invite everyone on this call to come visit us in the Brooklyn Navy Yard. That's Building 22, our lab. But the point is, I spend my days like talking to Fortune 500s and trying to help them understand and be exposed and inspired and learn about what these applications might be. So let's talk about retail. What
Hmm.
do you see today as you like scour the world every day, all day long, looking for really good examples? Who's getting it right? Give us a couple of examples that people can then go
Hmm.
take a look at, and tell us why they're getting that right in terms of the way that they are using augmented reality as we know it today.
Okay. So, uh, I think the two organizations I'd love to highlight are two organizations that have been pioneers in the space. And so the reason why they're getting it right is because they've been early into the technology, and therefore they've had more time to play with it, more time to listen to what the consumers are saying about the experiences they're putting out there, more time to ramp up their team and their strategic thinking, their design thinking, their development of augmented reality. And so, and I'm like reading it up, it's like I'm announcing something on reality TV, but the two players are, I feel like Tyra Banks right now, is Lego and IKEA. Lego and IKEA are the two that I would love to talk about. And again, it is because if you look back and, if you just Google Lego augmented reality or IKEA augmented reality, there are a ton of examples, both current and going as far back as a couple of years. IKEA in particular was one of the first to use
Yeah,
AR
they
Kit.
were. Yeah.
They're the go-to when we talk about product visualization. The ability to put IKEA furniture into your place has become, like, for lack of better words, a killer app of augmented reality.
No, forget the
And
place. No, forget the placement of the furniture. What I
yeah,
want is the instructions. They finally explained to you
yes,
like how you actually put together. like,
exactly,
like
exactly.
their furniture, which is pretty phenomenal, right? So it's like a two puncher. You get you know you get
Yeah,
2 for 1. You get
yeah,
both the
yeah.
instructions and then also the ability to place whatever you want
I
to.
agree.
And
I
it's
definitely
easy to
agree.
use.
I definitely agree. And they also recently came out with a couple of experiments that they wanted to show to the public. This was like literally just weeks ago. And what I loved about some of these experiments was the ability to visualize music in your space, for example. And when you think about that, to be able to look through your phone or through a pair of glasses to literally see sound waves and how that could help you and be more informed in terms of your design of your room so that you know where the quiet areas will be, you know where the areas of that need to be closer to the speaker and how far that speaker, the music can actually reach. It's really quite compelling. And they did the same in the same experiment feature with lighting and being able to show not just like what a lamp would look like in your space, but also at different times of the day and at different angles, what shadows will be casted in your space. And so, again, like kind of really going even more deeper into the use of augmented reality as a simulator, and being able to reach the user in a way that allows for them to have more information, to be informed in their design, and therefore have more confidence in the purchase of IKEA furniture and
Yeah, it's
IKEA
putting me in
accessories.
control, and I like that actually as a shopper.
Exactly.
I mean,
Yeah.
I want to have the ability to do those things. Before we get to Lego,
Yeah.
when you were describing it, I was feeling overwhelmed, and I do this every day.
Oh.
The talent, the product, the
Yeah.
team,
Yeah.
so what's the short version? Like, if you don't have all of those things, you don't have a lot of resources. We're in the middle of a global economic
Hmm.
meltdown. You don't have those resources. You know that to get competitive, you're going to have to get smarter digitally. How do you think about what's the short version, or like how do you get started? Like, if your competitors are beating you badly at the digital game, how do you step it up and not just feel so overwhelmed thinking I need to get all of these people and these resources in order
Hmm.
to figure out how to
Yeah,
create
that's a
this
good question.
experience?
I think the answer is you outsource in the beginning, right? And so if you don't have the talent in house, from an eight ball perspective, that's web development team. So a developer that's familiar with JavaScript and 3D frameworks like A-Frame. From an app perspective, that usually revolves around ARKit, and AirCore and Unity. So if these types of professionals are not already on your team that have knowledge in how to utilize these tools, then you outsource. And there are a ton of amazing agencies and developer shops that have specialized in augmented reality that have continued to demonstrate real value in the use of these tools. And in fact, both IKEA and Lego, from what I can gather, especially knowing a lot more on the Lego side, since Lego has had a lot of WebAR projects that have utilized our platform, they have looked to outside teams to be able to get products out to market. And what that does is it allows you to get products out to market, which is really important because that is when you start to gain the learnings.
Yeah.
And you also it's learnings from a number of angles. Again, it's learnings from how your end user is interacting with that experience. And so measuring that and listening to that is really critical. But it's also learning in, basically shadowing and interacting with your third-party development shop in understanding, the parts of their team and how they work and the skills and the talent that are required to put that experience together, and start to consider adding that into your HR strategy, right? And as part of the makeup of your team.
It has to
So
be,
I
I
think,
think you would agree with this. It has to be an ongoing commitment to
yeah,
some degree. If it's like 1% of your time or 0.5% of your time, I would say it's more urgent than that myself right now, because this is the next generation. I mean, I have an 11-year-old. She's never going to shop like I have in my lifetime. It's just not going to happen. She has all these other options that will be open to her. But one thing I would say is important to think about too for some of these retailers and brands is upskilling, right? I mean, one of the things
hmm
that our lab offers is classes. For example, we have a UX design for VR and AR,
hmm
and MR that's coming up on July 25th through August 9th. And that's a online class. I mean, part of this is just getting familiar with what some of these tools are, how they work, What sort of products do you develop or interfaces do you develop relative to the products that you are going to market with, right?
Right.
So much about this is knowledge, because we're not at the point where we have best practices yet, right? For creating AR content or MR content or VR content for that matter. Would you agree
Right.
with that?
Yeah, I agree. I think that's one of the areas that is really important to focus on as an organization. So it is about that longer term commitment, and anybody that gets into the AR space and can see how this can demonstrate real value, especially from a retail perspective, in terms of the increased dwell time, the increased recall, the increased conversion to purchase. And so I really do akin this when you were talking about like where are we in years with this technology. It reminds me a little bit of mobile and how hesitant organizations were about getting into mobile, having a mobile website, and there was a lot of talk on whether or not you should get into this game. And those that got in early benefited, and they got in early and benefited not just because they had something, but because their team was ramped up to be able to continue to innovate and continue to perform within that space. And so outside of just gaining ROI from the campaigns or the experiences that you put out there, the other upside and the benefit is the knowledge and, again, the potential upskilling of your team. And like going back to Lego, because I know we talked a little bit about some of the IKEA examples. One of my favorite retail examples that Lego has done, thanks to an agency called Trigger, the mixed reality agency, was creating a whole new purchasing funnel within the store, and a new reason to get to the store and to spend time in the store through the use of an AR scavenger hunt for Lego's AR activated hidden side playset. So, I mean, there's a lot of AR there. You can see how invested Lego is in augmented reality. So here the user walked in, they scanned a QR code, they were brought to a browser, they were asked to find ghosts around the store. And what I love about this is that as a kid, you go wild, right? To be able to go on a ghost hunt within a store. But as the parent with the child, you now have the potential to visit areas of the store you may not have gone down, different aisles, for example, different corners. And the kicker is that when the ghosts were all found, the child was given a reward to play with the hidden side playset. That was the reward, to actually get access to the playset in the store. And so you can see how, like, with every ghost that they capture with that reward, they're more and more invested into the playset. So by the time they get to play with the playset, their excitement is at the max level, which is going to really get both the parent and the child into that frame of mind to purchase. So increasing purchase and gamifying that purchasing journey. And again, what I love about AR is that it has the ability to strengthen a location. So you had to go to the Lego store, thanks to Trigger, to be able to do this. But at the same time, and we're going to talk about this, AR has the ability to not need a location whatsoever to bring the location to you. And obviously during a pandemic, when everybody is at home with shelter in place and a lot of brick and mortar retail doors are shuttered, bringing the shopping experience home, bringing the merchandising home, bringing the salespeople to people's home, that is really where AR is shining today, is that at-home strategy.
Can you talk about a few more examples? Because I want people to go check these out. Because one of the problems that even I have is like figuring out, where do I go to see all of these things? One thing is, folks, I would definitely recommend checking out Tom's Twitter feed. It's phenomenal. Every day there's extraordinary news and there's all sorts of videos, and you can see some of the most cutting edge material because he's on top of it. And also you can go to his blog. So it's at Tom Emrich is his Twitter feed. TomEmrich. I don't want them to get confused. So there's the Twitter feed, and then there's your Medium post. But let's talk about some others that you've told me about. Like Sony Pictures, Gucci. Yeah. What have they been up to? Nike. I think many of us have seen Nike and some of they're known. I mean, innovation is in their DNA, and they're clearly a front runner because we know there's going to be winners, no matter what the technology is. In retail and everything else, there's going to be people who get this new technology and they're going to be winning in the end. So talk to us about how Nike, Sony, and Gucci are winning right now.
Sure. So I'm going to talk a little bit about like just general use cases and how like Nike is a really good example. Gucci is a really good example of that, because I think for the retailers and organizations that are listening, they're that having that takeaway on like what can we do to take part of that opportunity. So when I think about like what's happening today in relation to AR, I think about three things: e-commerce, the pandemic, and the experience economy. And so when it comes to e-commerce, e-commerce was already on the rise before the pandemic, but the pandemic has accelerated our online shopping behavior. And e-commerce is extremely convenient. And we're now having this new online shopping behavior be reinforced. It takes 3 months to create a new habit. And we now have a lot of folks that have been shopping 3 months. We've maxed that out, right? But with online, you know, there's some challenges, and one of the biggest challenges is in returns, right? And it's because an online shopping experience, it lacks that physicality that a brick and mortar store can bring to the table. And so AR can make the online shopping experience feel physical. That's like a big takeaway. And it can do this through virtual try-on. So this is where Gucci comes in. So Gucci already had an app where you can go, and using Wannabe, which is an AR e-commerce technology company, they have machine learning for feet. Okay, so you were able to try Gucci shoes on. It's magical. Like you feel like you have the shoes on your feet. Again, it helps you boost your confidence in your shopping decision. Now that you're able to see, you know, the shoes on you, and also from different angles, your chances of return have decreased. They recently, because Snapchat has opened up the ability to add in third-party machine learning libraries, Wannabe being one of them, Gucci was able to launch that same functionality as a lens just recently. So now the Snapchat community, Snapchat users can try Gucci shoes on within the Snapchat carousel. So this is a really good example of virtual try-on. You may have also heard the ability to put makeup on your face. L'Oreal's doing some great things there. You can put virtual accessories on, such as sunglasses. Product visualization is the second way.
But yeah, so L'Oreal has done a really good job, and Warby Parker has done a good job.
They have really done a good job, yes.
I really just have, I mean, obviously we could talk all day, but why don't I ask 2 more questions? And I'm sorry, that's a puppy. How do you measure success? Because what I hear a lot of is, well, I don't know if the technology's there yet. Like, I don't know if I invest all this money, what am I going to get? What are the returns? And so can you talk to us a little bit about what some of the questions are, and then like what some of the metrics actually are in terms of impressions and other similar digital metrics that we use for any kind of social media content?
Well, what I would say is that when you're going to launch an augmented reality experience or a campaign, what you measure always needs to revolve around the goal. So what are you trying to optimize for? Is it purchase? Is it to increase the sentiment around your brand? Are you trying to create a viral experience that in itself is marketing? So just like your digital marketing outside of augmented reality, some of the same strategies still apply. So having that goal in mind, and then especially implementing measuring tools, so your analytics tools, is extremely important. So I just want to, it's very important to consider that. What I would say, and I actually just literally published a blog post this morning on how to measure AR experiences. I thought about this, and in my opinion, as AR is an experience medium, we need to glean insights from the other place that we have experiences, which is life. And when we ask each other about an experience, we ask each other about, how long have you been on that trip? What did you do? What did you see? How did you feel? And so dwell time, recall, sentiment, engagement, I think are the metrics to optimize for augmented reality. AR Insider, from a WebAR perspective, noted that over 50% of WebAR users are spending over 2 minutes in an experience. Shopify at AWE went on record indicating that augmented reality had more than doubled the conversion in terms of the call to action. We've seen studies say that augmented reality increases memory and recall of the experience upwards of 70%. So there's a lot of statistics out there, but if I wanted to depart any just recommendations, focusing on dwell time, engagement, recall, sentiment, And also like just keeping your goal in mind when you go out with an augmented reality experience is key. But I love how you are shining a light on value, and now is the time for augmented reality to deliver value, and it certainly is, and it's capable to do that. So I think that's also a big takeaway for anybody that's watching.
Tom, I always love talking to you. You're the best. And I just have one last comment, and then we're going to roll your video. There's so much more to come, right, Tom? Just nod your head. Yes,
Yeah,
there's so
there
much more
is.
to
Yeah.
come. The technology is radically innovating. We have 5G coming down the pike. We have more sophisticated graphic tools and all kinds of game engines that are now being converted for all sorts of content. So we hope that our conversation today, for those of you listening, has shed a little bit of light of ways that you can use AR in your retail business and building brands and engaging audiences and encouraging them to look at your products. So we thank you for listening. Piers, we thank you for inviting us. And thank
Thank you,
you
Adora.